most of our testable incidents are after accidents. So they're part of our investigation process, and we use, a drug and alcohol test to rule out whether impairment had played a factor in the incident. So depending on what's going on with us, I don't know how many we will be needing. Most of them will involve a forklift operator. Those tend to have the most high-level investigations that would require what we call an SIFP. So if it's a serious incident with fatality potential type incident, that's typically when we will automatically just put in that drug test. A lockout violation falls into that category. Like I was mentioning, usually a forklift incident, especially if it involves close proximity to a pedestrian. So those are kind of our factors where it's going to trigger this test. The other one that we use is the return to work protocol, where we give somebody who's had that positive test confirmed, and we decide, with whatever situation's going on, to not make that a termination. We'll give them the opportunity to, conduct a monthly kind of random test and continue employment for a period of 2 years.
Have you had fatalities?
No, I've been here 9 years, and the company itself is in its I think it's its 65th or 70th year. And unfortunately, years ago, like over 30 years ago, there was a forklift fatality. But no, we're a pretty safe operation. I know a lot of people question what we do, and we're more of a planer finishing mill. So we're not a sawmill, but we do have a lot of forklifts and moving parts and equipment. But for the most part, our injuries tend to be slivers and, minor things. Yeah,
that's good.
No, I don't mean to go back, but you were talking about pre-employment. For pre-employment, is it because you want like a history, like several months of history? Is that what
Anthony would be better to answer that question. I think it had to do with the documentation, just that it was, through and it was consistent with what we've done in the past. So yeah, if you have a specific question, I know he reached out to, we work with Vigilant, and they, have a legal team. And I think that's who he reached out to. So we could send you, their exact wording of probably why they recommended that, but that's what he decided.
We're just so interested in what that is, so that we can figure out how we can improve with that. So Lori, I will sit here and be quiet.
It's totally fine. So I just, what I like to hear from people is, why did you decide to start doing Saliva? What were you doing before? What do you see as the advantages? And how does it personally affect you? Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'd put some notes together. So for me personally, I'm the safety coordinator, but I also fall into a tester. So where we're located, I don't know if you've looked us up on a map, we're pretty rural. So we're in northeastern Washington. The closest, we actually, when we first implemented our drug and alcohol program here, our parent company is in Canada, and they were able to use a company called Driver Check, where that company actually comes on site. You have an incident, you've done the investigation, they send somebody to do that urine sample test. And then if it shows what we call a non-negative, they would be the ones that would follow it up with the swab. So that was great for our Canadian companies, but we did not have anything like that, within miles. Like it would be a 3-4 hour, round trip. And that was whether somebody would take that on as a customer. So for our division, we went the route of using what we landed on for our sample cups were Premier Bio cups. And it requires us to, again, we have the investigation team, and then, we work a day shift and a swing shift Monday through Friday. So if we needed a tester to come down, we had 5 on site. So we would just be available by cell phone. And we live in a pretty close proximity to the site. We could all be here within, half hour. And then we would come in. I'll just kind of give you a rundown of what we would have to do to use that. So first, the employee would have to acknowledge and consent to what we were doing. So we would kind of spell out the process. You know, we're needing you to provide a urine sample, and he would have the right to, you know, refuse that. And, you know, at that point, they would sign a kind of a self-termination letter, because they'd signed part of our drug and policy that's what they would do.
Okay.
So then that would be first. And then, you know, there's a whole lot that you have to do. You have to go through the bathroom that we use. We have to secure the location. We have cameras. You have to turn the cameras off so you have confidentiality.
Right.
My job would be, you know, for the most part, you'd have to go into the bathroom and remove cleaners, disinfectants, soaps, put the blue tabs in the back of the toilet, flush the toilet, so they didn't have any alteration type materials. So that was what you would kind of do first when they're still doing the investigation. So you,
Right.
the collector, you have a little bit of time to gather everything.
That's a hassle.
A big hassle. And then I would go and get a big tote, which is just kind of a big lock box in a secure location. And then we would get the supplies themselves out, which for us, like I said, would be those bio cups. And then we would instruct the employee, you know, to kind of not strip down, but just kind of take out all of his outer, you know, clean your pockets out, take out your outer shirts, can't have anything in your mouth. Again, just for the off chance that we might need to follow up with that swab. And we also do breathalyzers here. So we'd instruct the employee, you know, if they had gum or mints, you know, spit that out in this process. And then at that point, you know, once we were all set, you know, and we'd open the cup and we'd instruct them, you know, how much we would need, that the temperature needed to, you know, be indicated as good. You know, this is where I always had the hesitation. For one, it's awkward. You know, you have to, the doors propped open, you know, the other inside door, you know, they have that amount of privacy, but not much. And then also, if they can't provide a specimen, we would have, you know, sometimes a 2 or 3 hour wait. And, you know, at some point, you know, we would say, okay, this isn't working. We're going to go ahead and just do the swab. You know, we need to get out of here if it's, you know, especially if it's that swing shift and it's late at night. So that was always, you know, I would say the biggest plus, along with just the convenience, would be, you know, getting those employees who, you know, either they legitimately could not produce a sample, or, you know, they were putting it off, you know, and we would be waiting, you know, like I said, it wasn't uncommon to wait, you know, several hours.
Which is really uncomfortable as a woman at night, with the middle of the night alone with somebody you're suspecting of DUI or something.
Yeah. And so, and that's another good, you know, and we would always have somebody also, you know, again, myself being a woman, most of our other testers and investigators that would be on site as a supervisor, you know, would be male, and most of our, you know.
So you would have to have a team there. Okay.
It's definitely a team. So yourself as a tester.
But that's a lot of people having to be there, right? Yeah.
And
for a long time.
And we would also tell the employee they would have the right to have, you know, a plant committee member there as well. So just so they had, you know, somebody kind of for them. Right. But yeah, I would definitely say the ease of use, you know, the how quickly you could get a saliva sample versus waiting on somebody to kind of, you know, we don't know if he's telling us the truth that he, you know, that he just went before, you know, this happened. So yeah, we put you in the position where you have to wait for them.
So they could be sobering up, right? That's the downside is they know they're busted. You know, so yeah.
And for our policy, you know, they were allowed a certain amount of, you know, water. So you'd have to keep track of that over a certain amount of time, so it didn't get a dilute sample. So yeah, there was a lot of little particulars that we dealt with. Just kind of looking at my notes besides all of that.
So there's still I mean, obviously you don't need to prep that bathroom like that anymore, but you still need you're in private place. So where is there a place like that where you don't have to spend the time to shut off your cameras?
So and that's a pretty minor thing. My office is actually pretty quiet, and we use a break room, but right now we don't have to use that break room. We always chose that location. And maybe we'll choose, you know, somebody's private office where there's even more confidentiality, which is a really good point. you know, we would just have that. We still have our tote, but it's much smaller. That was the other thing. I went through and I took out, you know, we didn't need the other swabs. We didn't need the bio cups. We didn't need the gloves. You know, that was the other thing. You know, they hand you this sample and then, you know, you're looking at it and then, you know, somebody's, you know, oh, we can dispose of the sample. So just the, you know, the messy, you know, factor of, you know, dealing with somebody's urine as a biohazard if you had to. So.
Were you able to test the urine on site or did you send it out?
So what we would do is if we had what we considered a negative in the urine, that was it. We would not follow up. So we would trust that Premier BioCup for that initial indication.
Okay.
However, if it came back what we called a non-negative, then we would use an oral swab and send that to MedTox, and then our MRO would send us the results.
Okay.
So only the non-negatives were we following up with saliva.
Okay.
But the indicator in the Premier BioCups, your indicator for saliva will be a much more recent window. So, you know, we don't want to put employees who legally, you know, smoke marijuana on their own time at risk of potentially losing their job. So by narrowing that window down, you know, we were all for that. And we waited quite a while for a product like yours to be on market. So we were awesome. really excited for that reason too. And I would say for your ease of use in particular, kind of the all-in-one, like, you know, the mailing label, the, you know, chain of custody, and then going to the lab, and then, you know, the MRO kind of all. We used a third-party MRO. MedTox didn't provide that.
Oh, gosh.
Which isn't, you know, a huge deal, but, you know, for billing purposes and just, you know.
Yeah, that's a deal.
During COVID, they were so busy. Like, we were having to reach out, you know, like, because in the meantime, we have these people on paid leave. No, excuse me. Is it unpaid? I don't remember how they worked it, but I think it's authorized unpaid leave. And then if it comes back negative, we make that up for them or something. But so the time that we have between sending that off for confirmation, you know, is kind of one of those where we're kind of waiting. The employee wants to know, you know, the supervisor wants to know, hey, when are we going to get this guy back? So what we're actually at 1:30 today. Our core drug and alcohol testing group is going to meet and just make sure now that we changed our policy and procedures. We'll have your contact information to request the mailing labels and stuff. But we thought about sending in the swab that we did just to kind of see. We thought about mailing it off Monday. Just, I know it will come back, you know, inconclusive or something, but because it's been here a while. But we just did kind of want to see what the turnaround time would be, because that was another thing, like I said, you know, results and, you know, just what could we expect altogether. And then, so, yeah, I think.
That's good. Like, that was such a great rundown. You did such a good job. It's so nice to hear all the ways we're saving you time. And then, so with our product, you're going to get that immediate result, just like you would with the urine, but then you're going to drop that second locked sample into the mail, and then the MRO, the lab will test it, and the MRO will get back to you. Yeah. So you decided to do it to get rid of the urine and the yuck and the waiting around for hours. And yeah, it sounds like you had a lot of hassle to go through the bathroom and take everything out and, you know, put the blue stuff in the toilet. That was really, really graphic description of a total hassle to test somebody. So that was really good. Yeah.
And we're probably 5 years into having a drug and alcohol policy. So this is 5 years worth of those types of situations.
Gosh.
And again, not having any other alternative. It was pretty easy for our Canadian counterparts to say, oh yeah, this is what we'll do. We'll use driver check. You know, somebody, you know, totally comes on site and takes care of it. I think they even maybe have a van or something that they're able to use. So yeah, always from the very beginning kind of had to scramble to kind of come up with enough of a process to make it work for us. So
yeah, sounds like you did a good job with what the existing technology was, but now
yeah.
we've got a 10-minute process for you and you're done, right? So
yeah,
that's
it's totally
awesome.
easy. And then just being able to throw that whole kit right in the box, you know, again, like I said, even before, to follow up from the non-negative, then we would have to go through the whole swab process, which again, you know,
Yeah.
this one, it's already there. So yeah.
One swab and you're done. Split
super
sample, you get the immediate, you get the drop it in the mail, lock it
Yeah.
down, chain of evidence, drop it in the mail.
Yeah.
I'm curious, Malika, how much were those little bio cup things? What did that cost you? Is that?
You know, I would have to look back through. They're not, we buy them in a little case of 24 at a time. And I want to say they're like maybe $30, $35 a piece. Initially, we weren't sure how many we would use. And David Murray, who was on our call last time, took some up to the Woodlands division, because the Woodlands division are similar to us. They're out on site.
Right.
So we actually ordered a lot, and then they actually expired in the meantime.
Oh, gosh.
So
Yeah.
again, there was some learning curve there, but
Right.
yeah, I would say, you know, the cost probably is pretty similar, but just the streamlined, you know, aspect
Hours of
what
waiting.
you're offering for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah. No, thank you. That was a great case study.